Hello real ones, and welcome back to the revisited and remastered edition of my review on The Social Network. Real quick before we get back into it, I wanted to note something. One of the things that I make mention of during this part 2 is the notion that the overarching story of Mark Zuckerberg and his creations is not yet complete, that the sequel to The Social Network is essentially being written in real time as we live through it. Well, as it turns out, while editing this, Aaron Sorkin has confirmed that a sequel titled The Social Reckoning will hit theaters in the fall of 2026. Jeremy Strong has been tapped to play Mark in this next portion of his life, covering some of the scandals he has found himself in that we are about to cover, with Mikey Madison and Jeremy Allen White also getting key roles. So this portion of the review may actually end up serving as a companion to that sequel when it does see release, or who knows, maybe we'll revisit it again when that comes out. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of neat and I wanted to give everyone that context. Thanks again, enjoy part 2. Cast your mind back for a second to the Facebook world of the year 2014. Candy Crush has taken the world and most people's screen times by storm. Videos of folks dousing themselves with buckets of ice water are inescapable, though most of those participating in a benevolent idea to raise awareness for a deadly disease are completely unaware that they're actually guinea pigs for testing new features and pawns in the company's targeted switch from a place where you share your life with your friends to a place where you come to watch viral content and have spicy debates with people you'll never meet. But at least we got that awesome 50 Cent one though, trolling Floyd Mayweather.
If you could read one full page of a Harry Potter book, nigga, I'll give $750,000 to whatever charitable organization you want to. Fuck the bucket of ice, man.
Some of you might also remember a friend or two sharing the results of a personality quiz that they had taken. These were administered by an app called This Is Your Digital Life, created by a Cambridge University researcher named Alexander Kogan. About 270,000 Americans opted into these, but see, thanks to Facebook's lax platform rules at the time, Kogan's quiz didn't only harvest data from the people who took it, it scooped up data on all their Facebook friends too, without those friends even knowing it. In other words, Mark's platform was basically handing a backdoor into our profiles, or friend snooping, and Kogan gleefully vacuumed up names, likes, birthdays, locations, news feeds, everything. This exponentially increased the amount of data collected, ultimately encompassing information from an estimated 50 to 87 million Facebook profiles, mostly American voters. This data was then sold to Cambridge Analytica, a little-known firm co-owned by right-wing billionaire Robert Mercer and steered by Trump advisor and horseman of the apocalypse Steve Bannon. This was then used to build creepy psychological profiles. Whistleblower Christopher Wiley, the data genius who helped orchestrate it, admitted it. We exploited Facebook to harvest millions of other people's profiles and built models to exploit what we knew about them and target their inner demons. That was the basis the entire company was built on. Put bluntly, they used your scraped profiles, the pages you liked, your political leanings, and even how you answered a silly quiz to micro-target you with custom propaganda. Campaign insiders claim this was used for Trump's 2016 run, and even Brexit messaging, serving tailored political ads to different voter segments with surgical precision, hoping to instigate as much rage debating as possible. Keep in mind, this was the same year that the company began to, in their words, prioritize posts that spark conversations and meaningful interactions between people. To do this, we will predict which posts you might want to interact with your friends about and show these posts higher in your feed. But what happened is that the algorithm began intentionally pushing political and social content that it thought would piss you off and get you to engage right to the top of your feed. And this wasn't like some rogue developer or something like that either. This was a systemic issue. Cambridge Analytica, though, smugly denied doing anything wrong.
Jeez, why don't you go cry about it?
However, it wasn't only them at fault. It was the whole Facebook model. The reality was they had allowed third-party apps to gobble up user data unchecked for years, and ironically, just before this in 2012, Zuck had dismissed any real risk from those third-party apps. An internal email revealed he had told staff he was skeptical that there is as much risk as you think, noting that he can't think of any instances where that data has been leaked and caused a real issue for us. But once the Cambridge Analytica bombshell hit, it dawned on everyone that Facebook's core business, amassing these buckets of personal data and sharing it at will, might just have real-world consequences. Things like congressional hearings, stock freefall, and hashtag delete Facebook trending worldwide. In many ways, it was the death of their innocence, or at least the PR version of it. And it wasn't like Mark had never been asked about privacy violations before either.
So just to be clear, you're not going to sell or share any of the information on Facebook?
What the terms say is just, we're not going to share people's information except for with the people that they've asked for it to be shared.
Some of you might remember that legendary CNBC interview where he broke a literal visible sweat during a mortifying exchange with tech journalist Kara Swisher, where he appeared completely at her mercy.
Do you feel like it's a backlash, or do you feel like you're violating people's privacy? Do you feel like you're adequately portrayed as a... Because they want to wonder about the person who actually created this thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff happened along the way. I think, there were real learning points and turning points along the way in terms of building things. I can't go back and change the past. I can only do what we think is the right thing going forward.
So, before we move off this privacy thing, and I thought that was a fascinating answer.
It's okay. You want to take off the hoodie?
I never take off the hoodie.
I know you don't. What's with that?
No.
Girls?
Whoa.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, that's okay.
Maybe I should take off the hoodie.
At the time, it was awkward, but in hindsight, it was prophecy. And by 2018, it was deadly serious, as Mark found himself sweating again under the bright lights. This time, though, being grilled by senators and the press. And he spent a marathon 5-hour hearing assuring everyone that he was taking responsibility, but with new improved T800 model media training and state-of-the-art question-dodging technology.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
Senator, no, I would probably not choose to do that publicly here.
I think that may be what this is all about. Your right to privacy, the limits of your right to privacy, and how much you give away in modern America in the name of, quote, connecting people around the world.
Is it an alternative to Facebook in the private sector?
Yes, Senator. The average American uses 8 different apps to communicate with their friends and stay in touch with people, ranging from texting apps to email.
It's the same service you provide.
Well, we provide a number of different services.
Is Twitter the same as what you do?
It overlaps with a portion of what we do.
You don't think you have a monopoly?
It certainly doesn't feel like that to me.
Okay.
By mid-2019, regulators had smashed Facebook with a record-breaking $5 billion fine, the largest privacy penalty ever, for its lackluster data practices. Facebook scrambled to reform. It retroactively banned Cambridge Analytica from the platform, it rewrote its developer rules, and it finally yanked away the old friends list API that had enabled the leak. But the damage was already done. The Cambridge Analytica scandal was the inflection point. The cool startup CEO shtick no longer stuck. The narrative had turned, and the platform that promised to connect the world became a tool to fracture it. And at the center of it all was Mark, looking like a guy who suddenly realized that being the villain in everyone else's story doesn't come with a like button. So, what do? You rebrand into something else.
I'm too sexy to get zucked, too sexy to get zucked, Zuck's gonna delete me.
The Zuck truck has undergone what some image strategists have dubbed the most brilliant PR transformation of the century, but I like the term his bro glow up. Up until this point, he had been the infamous hoodie-clad nerd CEO that likely had a touch of the tism.
So, I mean, yeah, we thought about making that open, but then, that's when we kind of, had to do all this work to, come up with a license, and we're just like, all right, screw that. But... Yo.
I'm likely on the spectrum too, so it's okay if I say it. And you might be surprised at just how many people have seriously speculated that he's not human.
But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human, still. But I was just referring to myself in the past. Not that I was not human.
Are the allegations true that you are secretly a lizard? I'm gonna have to go with no on that. I am not a lizard.
I have all the characteristics of a human being. Flesh, blood, skin, hair. But not a single clear, identifiable emotion, except for greed.
Today, though, T800 model Mark takes the stage with the confidence of a full-on tech bro. Freshly tanned, he's ditched the ratty hoodie for a Gucci shirt and shiny chains. Even his hair's been allowed to grow out a little bit. He's an avid practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he even won gold and silver medals in his first ever tournament. He casually trains with MMA fighters. He went and put Dana White, the UFC CEO, on his board. Remember when they were even hilariously discussing that idea that Mark might have a legit sanctioned fight with Elon Musk?
I was talking to both Elon and Mark last night. Both guys are absolutely dead serious about this. And, you don't have to be a fight fan to be interested in this fight. Everybody would want to see it.
Hey, I'm in, dude. Put it in the sphere, have him fight to the death. Loser gets absorbed into the arena's neural grid and haunts the place. Anyway, some might say he's fully leaning into his wealth, power, and influence, and I guess you could just make the argument that he's not even pretending to be a normal guy anymore and owning the billionaire status. But make no mistake, every detail underneath all of that flexing is a calculated reboot. And rather than a midlife crisis, this is more like a hardware upgrade. After being mocked for over a decade as a robotic nerd, it's almost as though he is intentionally projecting an image of raw confidence and brute strength, because with those updates to his system, he's more imposing under questioning. He's sharpening the optics from hoodie-clad beta to hyper-chiseled alpha, almost as if he's preparing for something. Maybe politics? Listen and understand. Mark Zuckerberg is out there. He can't be bargained with, can't be congressionally subpoenaed into submission. It doesn't feel pity, or even any human emotion at all, really. And it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are Meta. Zuck's personal makeover, though, is nothing to some of his huge political pivots that are, again, far more strategic than ideological. 10 years ago, he had decked himself out as a progressive technocrat and was funding causes like legalizing marijuana, citizenship for immigrants, and gun control. He publicly challenged Trump's policies, calling out the Muslim travel ban as extreme, reminding followers that we should also keep our doors open to refugees. He poured cash into voter turnout. For example, during the 2020 election, he dropped $420 million into a fund to help Americans vote. And the Republicans absolutely fucking melted down over these Zuckerbucks, as they called them, with Ted Cruz decrying about how this was billionaires buying elections, and Trump called it fraud and cheating.
Now that is irony!
At the same time, Facebook went hard on misinformation. It aggressively downranked QAnon and COVID conspiracies to protect public health, and in January 2021, they took the nuclear option of banning Trump's account indefinitely after the Capitol riot. All of this did nothing but add further fuel to the narrative of Facebook having an anti-conservative bias due to their content moderation policy and fact-checkers that they employed. Everyone knows that stuff is so woke and fake.
And reality has a well-known liberal bias.
It became such a big boogeyman for the right that in 2019, Mark himself went along with his buddy Peter Thiel to have dinner with Donald Trump at the White House and to assure him that no such bias existed. But fast forward to 2024, when support for Democrats is in the basement and it appears all but a lock that Trump is going to win his second term as president, and it was time for a switcheroo. Meta's ledger showed a $1 million donation to Trump's inaugural fund delivered just weeks before he toasted the president-elect over dinner at Mar-a-Lago and tweeted, "Looking forward to working with you."
All right, thanks so much for the gift, you little bitch. Now get out of here.
He then had himself a prime seat with the rest of the Broligarchs at the inauguration itself. I wonder if that had anything to do with this proclamation by Trump saying, "We're watching him closely, and if he does anything illegal this time, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison, as will the others who cheat in the 2024 presidential election." Or maybe it has to do with the antitrust lawsuit the FTC brought against Meta back in 2020 finally going to trial this year after he was unsuccessful at killing it. The FTC alleges that Meta's actions have harmed consumers by reducing competition in the social media market. The lawsuit seeks to force Meta to divest from Instagram and WhatsApp, arguing that these acquisitions have allowed Meta to maintain monopolistic control over social networking. Or maybe it's all just a big coincidence.
Wrong.
His latest rhetoric is, "I'm not a lefty or a righty, I'm just a tech bro." He tells us he's shooting for nonpartisan social media. Meanwhile, the dedicated election integrity team is gone. The seasonal war room on misinformation is gone. Those handy transparency dashboards for researchers, gone. Basically systematically dismantling the infrastructure that once guarded the truth on his platforms and removing the referees.
I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes, similar to X, starting in the US.
He even moved the trust and safety moderators en masse from California to Texas, a state with lax regulations and a governor aligned with Republicans. He's even gone so far as to declare that censorship is gone, and he points the finger at governments and mainstream media, saying that Biden officials repeatedly pressured Facebook to curb COVID information and that bowing to it was a mistake. And he even had himself a trip to the Rogan experience as a cherry on top to make sure his new friends knew that he totally agreed. Fact checkers had become too politically biased, and it was actually them that had wrecked the users' trust, placing all the blame on overzealous moderators and on social and political pressure. In his telling, Facebook's apologies only made it a weak target. But don't you worry, it's free expression from here on out. No matter what side you're on, you see the narrative building here? It's not us, it's them. Facebook is just a poor, naive platform preyed on by biased mainstream media and a partisan government, rather than the active selector that it once was. But it's hard not to see this as anything for what it obviously is: self-preservation. His stances pivot depending on the efficiency of staying in power, pleasing critics from whichever side holds the gavel, and crucially, keeping the money flowing. The real constant is that he will always look to first insulate himself from accountability. Today's liberal turned classic liberal shtick, it's just another layer on the new model. He courts the conservatives by ripping up his own fact-checking rulebook, then plays victim when the press cries foul. The pattern's clear. Whatever strategy hurts him the least, he'll adopt, whether that means allying with Democrats or cozying up to Donald Trump.
How much are you spending, would you say, over the next few years?
Oh gosh. I think it's probably going to be something like, at least $600 billion through 28 in the US. Yeah.
It's a lot.
No, it's significant. Sorry, I wasn't ready to do for an announcement.
He said I wasn't
sure what number you wanted to go in.
He just recently made the comment that almost every institution has become partisan in some way, and we are just trying to resist that. Maybe I'm too naive, but that's what we're going to try to do. I don't know about naive, but convenient? Definitely. In retrospect, Mark is actually much more like the T-1000. He takes whatever form he needs to accomplish his goal. But what's the real goal he's after? By 2021, Facebook was no longer the place you came to overshare your life and hate creep on your enemies. It had by and large come to symbolize disinformation and division. The brand had become radioactive. To regulators, to journalists, to former employees, and increasingly to users. So, what do? You know. In October of that year, Mark Zuckerberg appeared in a pre-recorded video standing in a carefully designed digital home, awkwardly gesturing his way through a vision of our synthetic future. He declared that Facebook was now Meta. The metaverse, we were told, was the next great leap for human connection. Mark saw it as the successor to the mobile internet, something as revolutionary as the jump from the desktop to the smartphone. A fully immersive, interoperable 3D internet where you could work, socialize, play, and live without ever leaving your couch.
All right, perfect.
Boy.
Oh, hey, Mark. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Mark. Hi, Mark. What's up, Mark?
Whoa, we're floating in space? Who made this place? It's awesome.
Right? It's from a crater I met in LA.
This place is amazing.
Boz, that you?
Of course it's me. You know I had to be the robot, man.
I thought I was supposed to be the robot.
With VR headsets and AR overlays, the physical world would dissolve into pixels. Mark pitched it with the kind of unblinking passion usually reserved for a cult leader. He imagined us floating through virtual boardrooms and attending concerts via avatars, buying digital clothes for our digital bodies in digital stores run by
Meta.
And this was what Mark believed was the future, or more precisely, his future. So what followed was an empire-wide shift. Entire departments were restructured around Horizon Worlds and Quest headsets. The company's stock ticker changed to
Meta.
Tens of billions of dollars were poured into the Reality Labs division. To Mark, he was building the next internet, and he wanted to own the land beneath it. He wanted to own the reality, or at least the next version of it. And
Meta
could serve as an escape hatch from the present. A world full of scandals, whistleblowers, mounting regulations. Mark needed a fresh narrative, a new world for us to believe in so we'd forget what we'd already seen.
Meta.
But to the public, it landed a little bit differently. Sure, there was curiosity, but there was also skepticism, and a lot of memes.
Do the video call. I want to fuck you, please.
Yeah, just gotta find something to wear. All right, perfect.
And to be fair, some of this wasn't delusional. Mark being obsessed with efficient, tech-savvy connection, the metaverse offered a solution. No more scrolling, no more typing, just existence. Sweet, infinite, monetizable existence. But let's be real, the rebrand was really a masterclass in distraction. Instead of trying to outrun Facebook's scandals, he was going to try to outrun Facebook itself. By pivoting to the metaverse, he aimed to leapfrog over a decade of controversy and plant a flag in some unclaimed virtual soil all at once, where he could not only be the architect, but the god.
People will bow to it.
It was a timely maneuver because just days before Mark took the stage to unveil Meta, Facebook would be hit by another massive scandal in the form of a former product manager named Frances Haugen. Haugen was not the first whistleblower to step forward from inside Facebook, but she was the most devastating. She was armed with tens of thousands of internal documents dubbed the Facebook Papers. She testified before Congress, she laid out her case on 60 Minutes, and she cracked open the vault, revealing what many had suspected, but few could actually prove. That Facebook had known, in precise detail, the harm that its platforms were causing to things like mental health and to civil discourse, and they chose to do nothing about it.
Everyone can eat shit! A big bag of shit!
And globally, those harms scaled up. In places like Myanmar, where half the country's population logs into Facebook as their internet, the algorithmic cogs were actually promoting violence. A Global Witness study found Facebook's own recommendation engine was pushing pro-coup, pro-military content even as the bloodshed mounted. And when the platform is synonymous with the internet, that's a huge problem. Similar occurrences transpired in places like Ethiopia and the Philippines and India as well. Their own engineers warned about it repeatedly, and each time the company chose growth over responsibility. Mark dismissed these claims as a mischaracterization, and he insisted that Facebook's research was being taken out of context, but the public mood had shifted. Haugen wasn't someone that could just be brushed off as no one. She was an insider. She was armed with receipts. And suddenly, Meta's rebrand looked a lot less like vision and more like diversion. And yet, these revelations didn't even slow Zucky down. They barely dented him. He absorbed the blow and he just kept on building. While public trust eroded and regulators circled, Mark just kept his eyes on the next thing. But even the metaverse, though, with all of the tremendous ambition, began to falter. Despite the enormous investment, the user engagement was really low and the tech was kind of glitchy. Like, Everything just felt kind of off.
And before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You're selling it.
However, while it might have failed miserably initially, it didn't die. It just kind of went dormant. Learning, evolving, waiting. Like VR in the 2010s, the metaverse might just need one more technological leap, a leap that is currently happening. As the artificial intelligence boom erupted in 2023, the company shifted gears again, and the metaverse was quietly de-emphasized. ChatGPT was already destroying term paper integrity across the world and making college educations basically worthless, and, well, Meta could not afford to just sit on the sidelines while this happened. So the company launched its own LLMs, and they doubled down on AI research. Really AI everything. It rolled out generative features across Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Stickers, writing tools, image generators, personal assistants. If it had an algorithm and a heartbeat, Meta was putting AI in it. They reconciled that if they couldn't own your screen, they could own the next closest thing, your tools. Unlike competitors like OpenAI or Google, who locked their models behind paywalls, Mark actually fashioned himself as a champion of open source AI, and he promised to make his tools free and open for developers worldwide. But why do that?
Because, you know what really gets my dick hard? Helping out my friends.
Well, like we alluded to before, it could be a chess move in Mark's play to control the direction of the AI infrastructure globally, basically flooding the market with Meta's tech and hopefully turning their version of AI into the Google of search engines. He's also started popping up at AI summits to remind Congress that it's better that the standard is set by American companies who can work with our government to build safe AI. Or a more cynical person might see it as a shameless con in an attempt to establish all of the rules. Because he who controls the AI infrastructure can shape every digital interaction. Connecting the world is now not enough. He wants to shape how it thinks, to build the tools that power your creative process, to filter your information, and maybe even simulate your emotional needs. The metaverse was meant to create a new reality, and AI is going to tell you how to think in it. But this isn't his final move, because beneath all of this, there is one more product in the oven, and that project ties everything together. In 2024, reports began emerging about a new Meta hardware project codenamed Orion, a set of high-end augmented reality glasses, years in the making, described as the company's iPhone moment. It's still in development as of 2025 with a targeted release of 2027, but it represents Meta's most serious attempt to actually merge your digital and physical life. It's sleek, it's powerful, and if they have their way, it'll be strapped to your face most of the day. Imagine a pair of glasses. Imagine that they can see what you can see, hear what you can hear, know what you want before you even ask it. They can recognize faces, they can detect objects, and they can layer information over the real world. Now imagine that the AI inside them is trained on everything Meta knows about you, and everyone else. Orion represents everything Meta has been building towards with its research into AI assistants and AR overlays, a personalized interface layered on top of reality. One insider described it as the beginning of a true AI wearable that can assist you throughout your day. And unlike how the metaverse was meant to be an escape from the real world, Orion is an augmentation of the world. The AI assistant built into Orion will answer questions. It'll anticipate your needs. It'll intervene in choices. It'll present you options you didn't even know existed. And in time, it'll maybe even shape the way that you interpret what you see. For Mark, it's the fulfillment of his long-standing thesis that technology should be everywhere.
The future is now!
And with it comes real power. Constant surveillance disguised as convenience. Data on everything you look at with real-time reactions. If Orion works as intended, he will be building the lens through which you see reality. Your maps and your texts and your AI assistant, your advertisements, your memories, all filtered through Meta's world. and it certainly doesn't take an Ivy League education to understand that this type of technology has the potential for incredibly dangerous consequences. We're talking about a device that could quite literally become the gateway to your consciousness. And, beyond obvious other things like facial recognition, being able to give anyone who looks at your face whatever info there is about you on the internet in the blink of an eye, consider that AI is, no exaggeration, beginning to understand how to scheme and protect itself. The future is terrifying, and we've seen it coming for decades.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Now remember back in part 1 how we talked about Facebook beginning the exact same day that LifeLog was buried by the public backlash? Well, Meta's push into AI with projects like Orion, it sure looks a lot like LifeLog's final form. You want enduring cognitive assistance? Meta's training AI to become you, to learn everything about you until it can mirror you back to yourself better than your own reflection. And where the metaverse failed because it felt too far removed from reality, Orion's threat is its realism. You'll wear it, you'll need it, and you may forget what life was like before it. It is the crown jewel of his second empire, because if knowledge is power, Orion is designed to harvest and deliver more knowledge than any platform before it. It's actually an evil genius plan, and at the center of it all stands Mark Zuckerberg. He has essentially become emperor of an unchecked tech empire. He arranged Meta stock structure so that he alone controls that kingdom, and thanks to dual class shares, Mark holds the lion's share of the voting power. In fact, he alone owns 90% of the company's Class B stock, enough to maintain absolute control of the company by himself. In practice, this means that he answers to nobody. Shareholders who watch Meta's value plummet have one recourse: sell your shares. There is no boardroom coup in his future, and while he builds the future in Silicon Valley, he's also securing an island lair like a true Bond villain, his ultimate backup plan. He has quietly acquired over 1,500 acres of oceanfront land that began as a vacation estate but morphed along with its owner to become a motherfucking full-blown fortress with cost estimates running as high as $270 million. He's dubbed it Kulau Ranch, and it is a self-sustaining compound complete with food production, water tanks, energy independence, a private cattle operation, and what he insists is totally not a doomsday bunker, just a 5,000 square foot underground storm shelter with an escape hatch and reinforced metal doors, just like all of our storm shelters. The entire property is also surrounded by a wall and shielded from public view. It's as if he looked at the world, looked at his power, and said, just in case. Maybe it's paranoia, or maybe it's just the logical endpoint of someone who's seen what's coming because he's engineering it. The symbolism of it is pretty poetic though. The man who wired the planet together has insulated himself from it. Meta builds the tools to capture your data and predict your thoughts, and while the rest of us are stuck doom scrolling, Mark has himself a failsafe, tucked away where no subpoena, scandal, or Senate hearing can touch him. It's supervillain shit, yeah, but it's also maybe the most honest thing that he's ever done, because despite his PR team's best efforts, Mark Zuckerberg has never been a man of the people. His story is not selfless innovation or grassroots revolution like he would have you believe. And honestly, what drives a man like that? Power and control, yeah, I mean, that's a given, but maybe ironically, given all the robot jokes, his final motivation is painfully and tragically human. The ultimate human experience. A complete, fully realized existence. The kind of existence that only a handful of people in history will ever get to taste. A life so rich and advanced and seamlessly enhanced by technology, but protected from consequences that it becomes something else entirely. After all, what's more human than wanting it all?
I want the world. I want the whole world.
But what does all of this mean for us? What's your role in this new world? You're the product. You're the test subject. You're the content, the consumer, and you're the collateral damage. In this world, your data is the currency. Your time is the transaction, and the fight for you is where the battle will actually be waged. This only happens if we let it. This is merely the first chapter in this story. So maybe the cool thing to do now is to stay engaged, because the ending, that's still unwritten, still ours to write. A real-time sequel unfolding all around us. Each of us is a character in this story, and it's our responsibility not to just be an NPC. Only our human intuition, our empathy, our agency can save us. Otherwise, hasta la vista, baby. Roll credits. That's all for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed the remastered version of this episode. It was a fun little challenge to go back and polish up and then see how far I've come from that first video. If you haven't yet, please consider doing the things to the buttons and maybe visiting the Patreon if you dig what I'm doing here. As always, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.